I hope you are all fine and safe at home, attending the school assigned works. Today, let us first of all take up today's topic, recapitulate the lessons which I have learned in the previous classes. See, we have studied in the previous classes about rock painting and what they tell us. The early age people, what extent they follow the paintings and drawings in the walls of the caves and the walls of the caves and on the rock system. They used to draw pictures or paintings related to the hunting animals and other activities what they were doing. Next topic what we discussed in the previous class, finding out fire and their uses. How did they think of to find the fire and what extent they used fire for a different purpose? They used fire for a different purpose. For example, they used fire to cook food or to roast meat and to cook grains, cereals, and even to light themselves in the dark conditions and to protect themselves from the attack of wild animals and to be on the safer side. All these uses. Then the change in environment. What about the environment changes which they observed? The temperature of the world or the subcontinent day by day or gradually keep on increasing in such a manner which facilitated for the growth of some plants. The growth of plants also in turn resulted the increase or multiplication with regard to animals, maybe the wild animals, especially the goats, sheep, the wild animals, other things. And these changing environment with regard to the animals, their number increased and people also began to domesticate these animals in the longer days. Again, the beginning of farming and herding. What is the people? They observe the different types of plants and their nature, then their growth level. That is why they began to farm or cultivate or to grow some of the plant, especially they bear the grains like rice, wheat, barley, and also they use them as the source of food. Again, herding. They began to rear the animals which are very close to them, which are very gentle. They began to have the attachment with them like sheep, goat, pig, etc. So now they observe the movement as well as the attitudes or the nature of their living condition. Thus, the early people began to follow farming and herding. Then, latest is the domestication. How did the process in which they take care of the animals and how did they rear the animals? Not only animals but the plants. The plants they selected which are not prone to diseases. Again, they select the plants which have the capacity to bear the large grains and have the strong stalks, then capacity to preserve the same in the longer days to so many years, etc. Not only this one, even they began to domesticate the animals which used to give milk, meat and other things. Even they are very gentle and they are totally different from in many cases the wild animals. Thus they followed the domestication in a different manner. Now today let us study today's class, the talk especially with regard a new way of life. What changes we observe in the way of life of old storage people or early age people? See, as you know well, if you plant a plant or sow a seed, it requires many days to grow. Whatever you plant today, can you expect the growth of the plant tomorrow? We can't. If you sow the seed, can you germinate very next day? No, we can't. So we have to wait. It needs time to grow, maybe a day, maybe many weeks, maybe many months, maybe many years. So altogether, we have to wait for a long time to expect the good growth of any plants. The people, see, again, the people began to grow such plants and stay long time in a particular place. Why? They wanted to observe the growth and looking after those plants very well. Then how did they take care of those plants? Suppose if you plant plants and without supplying the required when weeding out miss unwanted plants growing here and there along with the good plants, though it must be removing from time to time. Again, driving away the animals. Why? Because those wild animals especially might have affected the cultivation of those plants or those plants. Even today you can observe in some of the villages the peacocks and wild boar which may come to our field and harm our crops, especially paddy and other things. And so all these works they have to take much care till the crops ripened. Till the crop ripened, they had to take they had to follow careful steps to the growth of plants. Then later what did they get? They at last after ripened, they used to get grains. So then grain used carefully. How did they use grain carefully? They thought of different ways, different methods, different areas of storing food. Storing food in the sense to store seeds and foods with regard to this grain. So these are the grain highly useful with regard to preserve in the form of seed and to preserve in the form of food for the people. How did they preserve? How did they carefully use these available grains of right? They began making large clay pots. So they began to make large clay pots and basket. They began to weave basket. Why? To preserve grains for a long time. Or dug the pits into the ground. See, these things, clay pots and old basket, even today we follow in some of the village areas, in the rural areas. To what extent we preserve sometime the mangoes in the earlier days and some other things. But even they used to preserve food in the sense these grains by digging pits into the ground. Now let us see the pictures related to how did those people, the early stone age people preserve grains in the form of baskets. Then they dig the pit and preserve food, and even inside or they use clay pots to preserve food, grains, and they used to dig pits to preserve grains. Again, the same picture also related to that. What extent? Under chamber. But today what happened? We follow modern method of preserving food. You would have seen big towns and cities, the warehouses have been constructed. Why? To preserve food for a long time. Even cold storage system have been introduced. Why? To preserve the food which are perishable in nature, especially flours, meat, eggs, milk, etc. So these are the different ways or areas of preserving food for a long time. Now next topic, storing animals. How did they consider animal as store of food? See, animals multiplied. We already studied. What is the reason? The environmental changes. The change in environment with regard to which led to the climatic changes, which resulted in the animals multiplication. So they began to increase the number in large quantity. So that's why they are looked after carefully, these animals. By whom? By early people. And why? They used to provide milk. The milk considered as source of food for those people. Again, meat whenever they required. Meat also considered as a source of food for the people of those days. Thus, animals which were reared can be used as store. Store of what? Store of food. So thus, animals considered as store of food. Thus, they are preserved. Thus, for that reason, they looked after the animal with long care and affection, with all the utmost care. Yes. Now let us think of finding out about the first farmers and herders. See, the archaeologists, we have studied already what are the archaeologists and what are archaeologists, have found evidences all over the subcontinent, each and every, especially for all directions subcontinent, the early farmers' evidences. Which are those? The places where, especially where they had observed the evidence of the early then it is Kashmir, East, South India, means all over the subcontinent. The archaeologists have found the evidences related to early farmers and herders. We studied already the early farmers and herders, what extent they were leading their life in different directions. Then scientists study the evidence of plants and the animals and how to find out whether these sites were the settlements of early farmers or herders. To know whether these sites were the early settlement of farmers and herders, the scientists studied lot evidence to know about that. One of the most exciting facts in that respect, the burnt graves, which had been burnt accidentally. So they observed. Anyway, the early farmers used to settle in such places. Again, the scientists identified these graves and they came to know that number of crops grown in different parts of subcontinent, and even they observed, they identified the evidence relating to bones of the animals which were found in different parts of the subcontinent. Thus, this shows the idea that what extent the archaeologists were able to identify or have found the evidence relating to the first farmers and herders based on these evidences. The next concept, towards a settler. Till then, the people of early age or stone age or prehistoric age used to move from one place to another place. They were not at all followed the settled life, and more or less they used to live in caves. Now they started to follow the settled life. Now let us study the life with regard to settled life. The archaeologists found traces and signs of some huts or homes at some sites all over India or all over the subcontinent. For instance, Barzaham, that is in Kashmir, Barzaham, that is in Kashmir. They identified or found the traces which are related to huts and homes which were built by early people. Why? Now they thought of to follow the settled life instead of wandering from place to place year by year. Again, the huts, how do they build huts? They built huts or homes. They used to dig pit in the soil or into the ground, and there they used to build houses. Those steps, the steps which were erected by them or constructed by them leading to those pits, and provide protection for those people from the wild animals and even from the weather condition. Again, around those places, what did the archaeologists observe and found evidence relating to herds? What do you mean by herd? The area of the floor around the fireplace. Even today we can see, especially in the rural area. Nowadays modern system introduced. Even today we have in rural area fireplace. People used to cook the food in such places. So the area close to the floor around the fireplace is known as hearth, and other pots were found inside and outside the pits. That shows what extent these people were cooking food. Then why these were found sometime inside the pit and sometime outside the pit, it depending upon the season. And they cooked food sometime outside, sometime inside, mainly depending on the season or weather condition. Thus, see what extent they follow the early days or early people, what extent follow the settled life step by step. Okay, let us discuss further steps. Stone tools have found from many sites. Already studied some of the sites. Stone tools have found from many sites, different from earlier Paleolithic tools. You know what is Paleolithic? Paleo plus lithic. These two words derived from Greek. Paleo means old, lithic means stone. So Paleolithic means old stone age. So tools from old stone age, different from earlier old lithic means stone. So thus Neolithic means new stone age. So these tools different from earlier Paleolithic tools, that is called, they are like more or less similar to Neolithic tools, means changes observed. And these tools are bright, so they are different from Paleolithic tools. So what are the Paleolithic tools? These were looking very blunt. These are not sharp, or they were looking very what do you call that, rough. But these Neolithic tools, these tools were bright and with the sharp edges. Though these sharp edges helped them to cut the things which are available to them those days in and around very easily. Then morals, see, morals and peasants. Morals and peasants. What do you mean by morals and peasants? Morals means see, more or less bowl type things, and peasants means like a grindstone things. You can see here morals and peasants. Morals and peasants. See, even today in some of the rural area, not only rural area, in urban area, people use these instruments or these things to crush pepper and some other spicy item and preserve them in the form of powder for a long time. So morals and peasants were used, why? Especially those days, to grind leaves, herbs and grains and cereals which were available in those days. And these were used even today, what I just said, in some of the town, city, especially in rural areas. People are very familiar with them, and even today we preserve them in such a way, those things. Then tools of Paleolithic means old stone age continue to be used. Many kinds of other parts again, many kinds of other parts, the earth, even today the mud vessels available, many kinds of other parts found. And why are these? These were used for cooking food, especially the grains like rice, wheat, lentils. These are considered important part of diet today. Today we follow dieting and all. So these are considered important items of diet. See, rice, wheat, lentils. See, using other parts these days considers very good to, with regard, maintain our health condition instead of preparing other than other vessels. In many places, see, in many places even people began to weaving clothes. That idea which reflected the fact that the people used to grow similar to cotton type things. So people began to weave clothes. So that idea reflects the idea of growth of cotton. Then in many places, men, women, they used to hunt. They follow the traditional activities of hunting the animals and gathering the food. Still continue the same activities. Again, people adopted farming and herding slowly. So what happened? In later days, with regard some changes, those farming and herding together follow the activities in some of the places from season to season. Even today, with regard to this, you can see mixed farming, or what do we call that? Mixed farming means cultivation of crops and animal husbandry, which are practiced in same piece of land. Not only this, beekeeping and dairy products items with regard to this one. So those days people adopted farming and herding, and these days people we follow with some with slight changes in the form of mixed farming. Now let us study the last step with regards to chapter, a close look, living and dying. See, the many sites which were found here and there all over the subcontinent, and above those, see, among those, Mehrgarh. Mehrgarh is a site which was located near fertile plain, Bolan Pass. The fertile plain which was Bolan Pass, that particular place or site which was found by the archaeologists. See, what is fertile plain? What do you mean by fertile? The fertile plain means the plain which consisted especially alluvial soil, which are brought down by the river system while they are flowing from the mountain areas. So that is Bolan Pass. That place fertile plain of Golan Pass. That pass leads to Iran. Now here what do you mean by pass? Pass means a passage in between the mountain system. The passage in between the two mountain systems. So here this fertile plain located near the Golan Pass, which leads to Iran, was considered as the first ones here. The people who lived there were the first ones to learn the cultivation of especially barley and wheat crops. So the people who lived in Mehrgarh, the first people were to learn the art of cultivating the crops like barley and wheat. Then they reared the animals, especially they used to rear animals, sheep and goat, which provide different items for them those days as a source of food. So they rear animals like sheep and goat. This is the early village what Mehrgarh came to life with regard in many attitudes of the respects. Many animals bones were found while excavation or discovery work is going on, which identified there many animals bones found. The bones of what? Especially the bones of wild animals like the deer, pig. The bones of wild animals were found in those places, especially in Mehrgarh, and bones of not only wild animals, even the domestic animals like the bones of sheep and goat were found. That reveals the fact that they follow the herding as well as the farming and also animal husbandry with regard what we see modern days. Then people who lived in houses. The people in Mehrgarh used to live in houses or homes. See, these houses or homes were in square type or rectangular type, and each houses consisted 4 compartments, and these compartments were used to store food. Then when people die, quite naturally, even today what we feel, what we follow in our custom and tradition, when people die in Mehrgarh, their relatives and friends pay respect to the departed soul, that they looked after them in such a way that, or with the belief that, and there is a life even after their death. What the same custom even today we follow. Then the burial arrangement was practiced in that places. The burials were found in Mehrgarh here and there in most of the cases. Then the dead persons was burnt along with goat. Why was such arrangement was made in case of burial ground? The dead person was burnt with the goat, that the people believed, and there is a food and it helps to provide food in the form of goat to that dead person in the next world. So these were the conditions to what extent a close look with regard to living and dying of the people of early age, especially these evidences which were found, which were identified, which were noticed in Mehrgarh by the archaeologists. Children, now see the homework based on today's explanation. The first question, where is Mehrgarh located? Where is Mehrgarh located? The second one, name the crops which people of Mehrgarh learn to grow. Third question, name the animals which people of Mehrgarh learn to rear. So these are the homework. I hope build the homework. Okay, have a nice day and time. Thank you.